Darren Cole watched Lily Harper take her last breath and then stayed with her lifeless body for 6 hours, not to grieve, but to clean, stage, and lie. What began as a quiet afternoon between boyfriend and girlfriend ended in a twisted game of control, cover-up, and chilling calm. It was a calm, sunlit Saturday in the quiet town of New Harmony, Indiana. Neighbors trimmed their hedges, kids played on sidewalks, and the hum of lawnmowers filled the air. Around 12:05 p.m., Lily Harper was caught on a neighbor's doorbell camera walking up to the beige, single-story house on Elmwood Lane. She carried a tote bag slung over her shoulder and held 2 paper coffee cups in her hands. She paused, smiled at the camera unknowingly, and knocked gently before letting herself in. To any observer, it looked like a normal afternoon visit between 2 people in a relationship. But it would be the last time anyone ever saw her alive. Lily was a nursing student at the local community college, known for her soft voice and her kind, thoughtful nature. She was the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthdays and always carried tissues in her purse for others. Darren Cole, her boyfriend of nearly 2 years, was less known in the neighborhood. He worked at an auto repair shop on the edge of town and mostly kept to himself. To those who did know him, Darren was quiet, maybe a little intense, but never violent. The two had met through mutual friends and had appeared happy for most of their relationship. Though close friends had recently noticed a shift, Lily had started seeming distracted, sometimes distant, as if something weighed heavily on her mind. Inside the house, nothing looked out of place. The living room was tidy, the curtains half drawn to let in light. Lily's overnight bag was found later, placed neatly by the bedroom door. It contained a change of clothes, a book, and her phone charger. The coffees she had brought were found on the kitchen counter, both untouched. Whatever had happened inside that house began shortly after she arrived. The home security footage ended at the front door, but phone records and Lily's smartwatch told a disturbing story. Her heart rate, tracked by her fitness band, showed elevated levels for the first 2 hours she was inside. At exactly 2:18 p.m., the data flatlined. Her phone stopped responding to texts and calls. From that moment, it was as if she had vanished. No calls were made to emergency services. No attempt to get help. Darren never left the house until nearly 6 p.m., when he drove to a gas station several miles away. Outside, life continued as usual. Neighbors watered their lawns, unaware that just a few feet away, something terrible had already happened. Lily's car remained parked in Darren's driveway, her keys still inside. No one knocked. No one suspected. It would take more than 6 hours before Darren picked up his phone to call for help. By then, it was far too late. The investigation would eventually uncover the chilling details of what occurred behind those closed doors. But in that moment, on that warm summer afternoon, all anyone saw was a young woman arriving with coffee and a smile, unaware that she was stepping into the final chapter of her life. The hours that followed Lily's arrival at Darren's house unfolded in total silence to the outside world. No neighbors heard a struggle. No one reported raised voices, cries, or sounds of distress. But inside that quiet home, time moved differently. The last known movement from Lily's smartwatch was logged at 2:18 p.m., when her heart rate dropped sharply before going still. Darren didn't call for help. He didn't leave the house. Instead, he remained inside for nearly 4 hours after her death, his actions growing more calculated as time passed. At 6:12 p.m., Darren was finally seen again, this time on surveillance footage at a gas station about 10 minutes from his home. He entered the restroom and stayed there for over 20 minutes. What he did inside remains unknown, but when he came out, he looked different. His shirt was damp, his face pale. He walked stiffly to the cleaning supplies aisle and picked up bleach, rubber gloves, and a pack of heavy-duty garbage bags. He paid in cash and left without saying a word. Meanwhile, Lily's car still sat quietly in his driveway, her bag untouched inside the house. Her phone, eventually discovered beneath Darren's bed with a shattered screen, had stopped transmitting. Its location. The digital silence matched the physical one. There were no texts, no calls, no messages sent or received. Her family assumed she was spending the evening with Darren, completely unaware that she was already gone. When Darren finally called 911 at 8:13 p.m., his voice was calm but shaky. He claimed Lily had collapsed and wasn't breathing. Paramedics arrived within minutes and found her lying on the living room floor. Her lips were blue, her skin was cold. She was partially dressed, with a throw blanket haphazardly covering her. The room was unusually clean, almost sterile. There was the unmistakable smell of bleach in the air, and not the faint scent of a quick wipe down. It was heavy, sharp, and recent. Paramedics pronounced Lily dead at the scene. The exact time of death was estimated between 2:15 and 2:30 p.m., matching the data from her smartwatch. The 6-hour gap between her last signs of life and the emergency call raised immediate suspicions. Why had Darren waited so long? Why hadn't he tried CPR or called for help earlier? When officers asked, his answers were inconsistent. He said he thought she was sleeping. Then he claimed he panicked and didn't know what to do. The inconsistencies in Darren's story only deepened the mystery. Investigators quickly secured the house and began documenting the scene. Though the home appeared clean, signs of tampering slowly emerged. Furniture had been shifted. The mattress had a faint stain, scrubbed but still visible under ultraviolet light. A vent cover was loose and small blood traces were later found inside. It became clear that Darren hadn't spent those 6 hours in shock or mourning. He had been planning, wiping away evidence, trying to rewrite the story of what happened. But no matter how clean the surface looked, the truth was beginning to bleed through. The investigation into Lily Harper's death began with quiet urgency. Detectives knew something was wrong from the moment they entered Darren Cole's home. The air smelled heavily of bleach, and the furniture looked like it had been carefully arranged. But beneath the surface, small details started to reveal a much darker story, one that couldn't be cleaned away. Lily's body was found lying oddly in the center of the living room floor. Her arms were placed by her sides, and her head rested on a folded towel. She wasn't dressed the way friends and family remembered her earlier that day. Her clothes had been changed, and her hair looked brushed. To the first responders, it appeared staged, almost like someone had tried to make it look peaceful. But medical examiners would later confirm that her body had been moved post-mortem. The lividity patterns didn't match the position she was found in, and bruises had formed on her upper arms and wrists. There were no signs of CPR, despite Darren's later claim that he had tried to revive her. As detectives searched the home, the story Darren had told started to fall apart. Forensics revealed spots of blood hidden beneath the floorboards and under the edge of the couch. They weren't immediately visible, but luminol lit them up like stars in a dark sky. More troubling was the discovery of a broken necklace wedged between the couch cushions, a piece of jewelry Lily was known to wear every day. They also recovered her phone, found hidden under the bed with the screen cracked and the battery drained. When it was powered back on, detectives accessed the health data synced from her smartwatch. It showed a sudden drop in heart rate at 2:18 p.m., aligning with the suspected time of death. That alone discredited Darren's version of events, where he claimed Lily was fine until evening. The phone also held another disturbing clue: dozens of unsent messages, written and then deleted throughout the week before her death. In them, Lily expressed fear, confusion, and a feeling that something was off. The digital evidence didn't stop there. Darren's computer was searched, and although much of it appeared normal, a hidden folder was found buried deep within the system, protected by a password. Forensic specialists were able to crack it. Inside were hundreds of files, videos, screenshots, and journal entries. Most were obsessive in nature. He had documented arguments, taken secret photos of Lily while she slept, and recorded private Moments without her knowledge. One file, dated the morning of her death, was a simple journal note: "Today is the test. If she stays, she's mine forever. If she leaves, at least I'll know I tried everything." Detectives began to build their case. The bruises, the staged body, the hidden phone, and the strange writings painted a picture that contradicted Darren's calm demeanor. It wasn't just a sudden collapse or an unfortunate accident. Something had gone very wrong in that house. And Darren's efforts to clean, cover up, and control the narrative were only making things worse. The breakthrough in the investigation came when officers took a closer look at the bedroom. At first glance, it appeared ordinary: bed made, clothes folded, surfaces wiped clean. But one officer noticed something odd about the smoke detector above the bed. It wasn't wired to the ceiling. Instead, it was battery-operated and unusually bulky. When they opened the casing, they found a tiny camera hidden inside, complete with a memory card still inserted. The footage retrieved from the device would become the most critical piece of evidence in the case. It revealed the truth of what happened in the hours leading up to Lily's death, and it was far worse than anyone had expected. The video began shortly after Lily arrived. She sat on the bed, talking softly, occasionally laughing. But Darren wasn't in frame. His voice could be heard from behind the camera, low and firm, sometimes rising with irritation. The early footage looked like a couple spending time together, but the mood shifted quickly. Over the next hour, Lily's demeanor changed. Her posture became more tense, her voice quieter. She was clearly uncomfortable, responding to Darren's requests with hesitation. At several points, she tried to leave the frame, but Darren blocked her. The camera caught moments of escalating physicality, nothing overtly violent at first, but increasingly aggressive. He pushed boundaries and she seemed to shrink with each passing minute. At 2:13 p.m., the footage showed a sudden escalation. Darren entered the frame for the first time, his face close to hers, speaking rapidly. She shook her head and tried to move away. He followed. The next few minutes were partially obscured by movement, but the audio told a clear story: panic, distress, muffled cries. Then silence. At 2:18 p.m., Lily stopped moving, the camera continued to record. Darren stood motionless for nearly a minute, breathing heavily. Then he walked to the camera and turned it off. What happened next wasn't captured on video, but investigators believe this was the moment he began cleaning the scene, wiping surfaces, and deciding what to do with Lily's body. When detectives confronted Darren with the footage, he refused to comment. His lawyer later claimed the interaction was consensual, part of an experiment between two adults. But the video showed clear signs of resistance and fear. The footage aligned perfectly with the autopsy results, which listed asphyxiation as the cause of death. Ligature marks were found on her neck, and small hemorrhages in her eyes indicated pressure and struggle. The camera had done more than capture a crime. It revealed intent, control, and a terrifying obsession. The journal entry from Darren's computer, the one stating "Today is the test," was written just an hour before the camera was turned on. It showed premeditation, not accident. What struck the investigators most wasn't just the violence, but the patience. Darren had spent 6 hours in that house with Lily's body, calmly removing evidence, manipulating the scene, and preparing a story. But the truth, recorded and stored above the bed, had already sealed his fate. When the trial began, the courtroom was packed with reporters, law students, and members of the local community who had followed the case from the moment it broke. Darren Cole, once an anonymous mechanic in a quiet town, was now at the center of a case that shocked even seasoned investigators. The footage recovered from the hidden camera had been reviewed in private by the jury. Its contents were deemed too distressing to show publicly, but the prosecution described it in clear detail. Combined with the forensic evidence, digital files, and Darren's own behavior, it left little room for doubt. The prosecution focused on intent. They argued that Darren had not only planned the events leading to Lily's death but had also calmly orchestrated the cover-up. He didn't panic. He didn't call for help. Instead, he stayed with her body, scrubbed the floors, moved her limbs, redressed her, and hid or destroyed evidence. For hours, he had tried to create a version of the truth that would make him look innocent. But in doing so, he left a trail of quiet mistakes, blood in the vents, bleach under his nails, and a broken necklace lost in the cushions. The defense painted a different picture. They claimed the entire event was a tragic accident during a moment of intimacy. They argued that Darren panicked and didn't know how to react, especially given his isolated, emotionally closed-off nature. They presented character witnesses who described Darren as quiet, misunderstood, and incapable of deliberate violence. But even they couldn't explain the 6-hour delay in calling for help or the lengths he went to in cleaning the house before dialing 911. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours. Darren Cole was found guilty of second-degree murder, unlawful tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. The judge, in sentencing him to 40 years in prison without the possibility of early parole, called his actions meticulously cruel and deeply disturbing. The courtroom fell silent as the sentence was read. Darren showed no emotion. In the weeks that followed, more details came out. Investigators revealed that Darren had been researching methods of control and manipulation for months. He had downloaded articles on psychological coercion, watched videos about pushing boundaries in relationships, and kept notes about Lily's daily routines. They found more hidden recordings, audio files, some stretching back to the early days of their relationship. In every one, Lily's voice could be heard, gentle, uncertain, trying to keep the peace. Lily's family established a scholarship in her name at the nursing college she had attended. They wanted her memory to be more than a headline, more than a court case. They remembered her as bright, kind, and endlessly compassionate. A future caregiver, lost to someone who couldn't see her as a person, only as something to possess. To this day, no one truly understands what drove Darren Cole to take the life of someone who loved him. But the truth remained in the footage. In the data, in the details he overlooked while trying to erase the crime. In the end, his own obsession ensured he could never truly hide what he had done.